Today I'm sitting down with Joshua Lloyd from Basketball Monster and Locked on Fantasy Basketball. Let us go balls deep.
I could bet all of the riches that I ever had.
Welcome to another episode of the Balls Deep Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm Adam King, sitting in the dark, despite it being 3:20 in the afternoon. It's a lot darker here than it is in Melbourne, where I have my guest today. We are brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. FBIBasketball.com is the website. As I said, I have Josh Lloyd with me today, my first Australian guest, which is exciting. Not having to do this at sparrows fart in the morning, so very, very dignified doing it in the afternoon. Josh, how are you, good sir?
I'm good, King. It's not that bright here. I've just got lights on, so I've just got the big stage lights lighting me up. It's not. I wouldn't say it doesn't look like you, like recording from a cave, but it's not super bright.
Yeah, we're about to get a big downpour. I think I just checked the radar, so and I don't have all the lights that you have. I could turn them on probably, but couldn't be bothered. So this is, another. I think you're the number 8. I think in the series here. Haven't released any yet, so you might be the first that I release. I'm not sure. But yeah, look, I just thought content is scaling back a bit. We've got a bit more free time on our hands, so thought it would be good to chat with some analysts about what they do away from fantasy basketball, what they enjoy doing, what their family life is like. I did send you the questions about 2 minutes ago, so I think you're prepared and ready to go.
I hope I know enough about my own life to answer those without preparation.
I think I know. Well, I could probably answer some of them to some degree, not to the level you can, hopefully. But
I hope not.
The first question that I ask, and I know the answer to this one, is whether this is a full-time job or a side hustle for you. And I know it's a full-time job. And obviously with the amount of content that you pump out, most people would just assume that.
Yeah,
because
I would think so.
Yeah, yes, you do a lot more content than most of us. But in terms of getting, I guess, to where you are now, you haven't been a fantasy basketball analyst your whole life. So where did you start, and then how did it transition into where you are now?
Okay, so I started this. Look, I'm going to get the years wrong. I think it was maybe 2013. I think it was 2013. I'm not 100% sure on that. But just wanting something to do, like a side hustle, right? So I'd been playing fantasy basketball for 5-6 years or so before that, following the NBA since back in the early 90s, and having some success playing a bunch of different fantasy leagues over that time frame, and just you're wanting something else to do, right, to get out of my regular job. So the first thing I did there was I was doing some work for Pro Football Focus in watching their game tape and grading that stuff. But with my work commitments, the timing on that was really tough to do. So I really couldn't continue doing that. So there's got to be something else I can do that is involved in my love of sport. So I started a fantasy basketball website. I'm just going to write stuff. So I don't see a huge amount of this content out there. And the stuff that I do see is not A, not great, or B, not consistent. So let's try and do something like that. So I started a website and just would basically I think I started like 2 weeks before the season started. So did a little bit of pre-draft stuff, but mainly just was going in with the aim of, here's what happened during the games, let me recap them, right? Just writing stuff that happened and then talking about fantasy value from there. And did that for a few months. And then that was noticed by RotoWire, Kyle McEwen at RotoWire. I think I'd sent it to him and say, hey, wouldn't mind you having a read of this? And he said, look, we've got a job here. You can write some of the player notes, the ones that you see pop up on ESPN and Yahoo. So I wrote those for a bit once a week. And then it just started, that started doing that. So getting paid nothing, but getting paid a little bit to do some writing there. They had an opening to do that 1 day a week. So I did that. And then in around February of that season, so close to the All-Star break, I just said, look, I think I feel writing is good, but I think I feel more comfortable talking. So I started a podcast, and that's it. Started the podcast, and then that started it didn't get huge traffic at all. Like nobody listened really at all for the first bit of time. Like we'd get like 10 listeners or 8 listeners, or, by the end of that first season, there was maybe 40 people listening on average. It wasn't in big numbers, and that took a while, but just eventually just putting the stuff out there consistently and then talking to people. And then I went over to Summer League, got a media pass through RotoWire for that Summer League after that first season, and just started trying to introduce myself to people, and eventually found myself a spot on the podcast network as part of Fansided, part of Hardwood Paroxysm over at Fansided, and then things grew from there.
Yeah, so I think that's, I guess for me, for anyone listening, but for me especially, I think the big takeaway that I get from what you've done, and I knew how you got into this space because I basically did what you told me to do and went to RotoWire and got through that way. But I think even now with what we're doing here at FBI, it really is about consistency and persistence, because as you said, you often start off quite small. And for me with FBI, that's where B-Dub helps me, because if I do a podcast or a show for, say, a month and I'm getting 100 people or 150 people, to me, I sort of go, well, is it really worth it? But he gets on my back and says, no, you need to do a consistent product. You need to be doing it every day, which is what you do. You do exactly the same show format sort of thing daily, not on weekends, but weekdays, and eventually it catches on and people start listening. So I think that's important for anyone that's in sort of looking at getting into this space.
Look, it's not even this space really. It's whatever you want to do, whatever it is, content creation, whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be every day. It just doesn't. But what it has to be is consistent. Like the number one thing people go, like, how did you able to transition from your job into doing content creation, to doing videos, podcasts? How do you make that a full-time job? What's your number one thing that you would tell people, whether it's fantasy basketball or anything, right? And I said, whatever it is, it's got to be consistent. It doesn't matter if it's twice a day, you post 3 Instagram posts a day, or you do 1 podcast a week, or you do 1 pod post every Wednesday, or every second Wednesday, right? Whatever it is, it's consistent, because honestly, people don't care. Like the people who listen, they don't actually care about you enough that they're going to just find you out. Like they don't know you. No one knows you. They're like, man, really, that's so cool. Like I'm the 10th person listening to this show. I really love this guy. And I listen to everything he says. No one cares, right? No one cares at all about you in that situation. So what you've got to do is you just got to do the same thing repeatedly. And it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't, whatever it is, you just go, yeah, I'll be back next Monday. Here's my show. Because then if someone comes there on the Monday and you're not there, they'll go, and your next Monday you're not there, they'll go, I'll do something else. They're not going to wait around and go, man, maybe in 2 years' time you'll come back. No one cares. So you've just got to be consistent. And that's the thing that I found helped my, who knows if I would have had success otherwise, but that's the principles I stood by. I also gave myself, like, you've got a time frame, like here's 3 years, 5 years. I can't remember the exact numbers. And you want to get to these benchmarks in that time. Otherwise, give it up, because it's going to take too much of your time.
Yeah.
So persist, be ready for low numbers, but be ready for 1,000 listens on a podcast for an entire year, which I think is what happened in the first year, right? Be ready for it. Who cares? It's not the point. Like your aim is 3 years time, and go from there.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good advice. And so, yeah, and then obviously you went from your own podcast, which is why your Twitter handle is Red Rock. Red Rock _B-ball, because it was the Red Rock Fantasy Basketball Podcast or something initially.
Yeah, that was the name of the website. It was Red Rock Basketball, and it was the Red Rock Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Yeah, that was just that's where that came from.
And then obviously you were contacted by Basketball Monster, and took off from there, really. And
basically.
And so I've spoken with Kyle already, and he's sort of reiterated what you said there about the RotoWire path and coming through there. So, look, and I know for you, it's obviously you've been doing this for quite a while now as a full-time job. Was it hard for you? I guess, because for me, if I'm thinking about ever looking at this as a full-time role, which I'm not sure I am, because I love what I do outside of fantasy basketball as well, so I am lucky. But for you, was there ever, like, making that jump, I suppose, from having a career and a full-time job to, okay, I'm going to do this fantasy thing full time? Was there ever an element of doubt in your mind that it wouldn't work and a bit of risk taking involved?
No, because I didn't do it until I knew that I had a job, right?
Yeah.
I didn't just say, well, I'm quitting my job and we'll see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Once I got an offer from Basketball Monster, and there was some, at the time it was around where there were rulings being made across America about, hey, are we going to make DFS entirely illegal? And that's going to put other fantasy things, like we didn't know what the future was happening with fantasy. We didn't know what our membership would be like or what role I would have. So I worked sort of almost full-time, but not as full-time for the first years. We waited for that stuff to get settled. And I said, look, I want to, but I'm just got to weigh this up. And I said, yeah, look, we'll see what happens. Because Ken, the owner of the site's like, I don't know where things are going. And then that all got sorted. No, I had a full-time job, right? So leaving a full-time job to go to another full-time job, it's easy. It's easy, right? I guess there's the risk of random stuff happening, strikes, lockouts, pandemics shutting down the league, like the risk thing. But I had a job. I didn't just say, oh, we'll see what happens. We'll see if brands start mailing me free hats because I posted something on Instagram. We didn't do anything like that. I had a job. I worked both jobs together for a full year, so about like 100 hours a week. So in the transition over, and then I quit one and kept the other one up, and then ramped up the basketball stuff after that.
Yeah. So I was going to say, because it would have been a lot of hours there for that transition period. And any, I mean, I'm assuming I know the answer to this, but actually, I think you've told me the answer to this, but no regrets.
No, mate, none at all. This is what I've always. I wouldn't say it's what I've always wanted to do, because like growing up, man, I can't wait to host a fantasy basketball podcast, because that it didn't exist for a start. So I didn't know that. But watching sport, dealing with numbers in sport was something I've just always done, right? Yeah. So my free time is sport. It's watching sport. It's thinking about sport. It's whatever sport that is, and the ones that I enjoy, and reading numbers and manipulating things and all that sort of stuff. That's always what I've done. So getting the opportunity to work in that full time, like I can't you can't regret that.
No. And I guess on sport, much like me, you love a range of sports. Outside of, like, when you're not doing fantasy stuff, weekends, holiday. There aren't many holidays, but what the holidays that you do get, what are the sports that you like going to watch, or like, passionate about, I suppose?
It's really Australian football that I go to watch. So we go to that basically every week to watch our team, and we've been doing that for 38 years or whatever it is. That's the sport that I go to every single week, and get fired up about when we go to watch it, and or watch it on the TV if we can't get to the game. But we're there basically every week.
And so your team is the Western Bulldogs. What's the backstory there? So was it just that's who your family supported, so that's who you support?
Yeah, basically that's a family thing. My whole family grew up around Footscray, and their parents and their parents and their parents, and like my grand uncle played for the Bulldogs, and that's the whole family. It was just, they all lived in Footscray for 100 years or whatever. So that's it. No choice.
And I think that's pretty common down in Melbourne. I think it's basically who your family goes for is who you go for. So
it is very much passed down.
Yes, and so you have a son. I think he's similar age to my daughter.
He's 15 and a half.
Yeah. Okay. So my daughter's she's 16 in June. Oh, this is bad. In June.
Yeah, basically the same. He's 16 in August. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So very similar. So he shares your love of football as well.
Yeah. Look, when he was younger, not as much, but yes, now look, he started playing football. He stopped this year, but he goes to most games with me as well. Probably not quite as passionate as what I was as a younger kid, but yeah, he's into that, and he's very much into that, and as well as basically all American sports as well. Yeah.
Okay. And you drag your partner to the games, or
mate, she
gets a leave pass?
Mate, never. She thinks she's been twice in like 6-7 years, whatever it is. She's like, no, she's just doesn't understand sport whatsoever. Won't watch it on the TV, and no interest.
No, I get that. I think my wife's been to 2 games with me in 17 years. So
Yeah, there you go.
there you go. So it's yeah, definitely just my hobby, not hers. Um, so sport is obviously a big part of your life, but then I guess even moving or further away from the sport landscape, I know you like to travel a little bit.
Yep.
What have you got? You've been to America a few times, but have you got any sort of favorite holiday destinations, places that you've been either by yourself or with your partner?
I don't know. Like I'm not a big person of like this is my favorite and I've got to go redo that sort of thing. So I know there's a lot of the world that I want to explore and that I haven't seen. So if I had to say it, it is probably Vegas because I've been there the most times out of everywhere. But part of that is work. Well, not part of it. Nearly all of it is work. I don't think I'd be going back to Las Vegas every second year. As much as I do enjoy actually going there, like I like the feel of Vegas. I don't have a problem with being there. I don't gamble. I don't drink. I don't go to. I do drink, but I don't like go out and get smashed and go to clubs. And people who are like, oh, I'm there 2 days and I'm out till 4 a.m. I don't do any of that stuff. It's just like a basic sort of day for me. But I'm in a different place with a lot of great food and accessible things and so much entertainment all around. But I've been Vegas, I don't know, 7, 8 times now, and we're going back again. For Summer League in July coming up. But otherwise, I'm just trying to rotate everywhere as much as possible. Yeah, there's so many different things. Like we spent a month in France last year. We're going to have a week in Mexico this year. And then like next year, we'll go to Germany or whatever. Like we're just trying to mix it up rather than go back to the same place that we've been to. So like I've been to a lot of places that are great. Like going to France was great. I'm not rushing back there. I'm not saying I can't back to France because I want to go to Spain, to go to Portugal, want to go to Croatia, I want to go to Germany, Belgium, Sweden, Argentina, Maldives, wherever, go to Africa. There's so many places for me to go to. So I can't say there's a favorite. I'm just got a big list of stuff that I want to go do at some point in the future.
Yep. No, that makes sense. And within Australia, do you travel around Australia much, or you tend to go outside the border?
It depends. Like we've been a little bit around Australia recently. Well, yeah, over the last couple of years, but I still haven't done a huge amount of travel within Australia. Maybe we do that next year. I'm not sure. Like I went to Queensland a couple of times. Well, not a couple of times, but once last year. Then the year before we went to Queensland as well. So yeah, maybe. Yeah, but not. It's not something I look to do massive. I've never been to West Australia. Never been to Tasmania. Like I guess I'll go there at some point. But like for me, I guess something. Because while Australia is different, it's not that different. Like it's not like you come from Canberra to Melbourne. It's bigger, obviously, so there's more things around. There's more restaurants around, but it's the same. Like, yeah, it's not that different. Whereas going somewhere else, like, it's different cuisine, it's different restaurants, it's different way of life, it's different everything. It's not that different here. It's different weather, but that's about it.
It is very different weather. Very different weather. So when you're not doing your fantasy stuff, TV, movies, music, any particular favorites that jump out there in terms of what you're watching at the moment or what you enjoy watching?
We just finished watching White Lotus because I was pretty slack on getting into that. So I watched that over the last few weeks. And now what am I watching? I'm watching the final season of Ted Lasso. I've got to start Succession. Mandalorian I'm watching at the moment. I haven't watched many movies. The last movie I watched, it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago actually. Everything Everywhere All at Once was the last movie I watched. But much like with talking about holiday things, I don't say this is my favorite movie and I'm gonna go rewatch it. Like I'll watch something once. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna. There's too much stuff to do. I find I've got too much stuff to do, or too much stuff that I want to do to necessarily revisit things. Unless there's a specific reason for revisiting it, like, hey, I'm doing a rewatch because this season's coming up or this new set of movies is coming up. But otherwise, forget it. Like, I'll just move on. But I don't watch a huge amount of movies. It's probably more TV than anything like that.
Which I think is probably not uncommon for a lot of people with the money that they're pumping into TV shows now. It's I think you could make a sort of a claim that they're actually better than movies in a lot of situations. Although Everything Everywhere All at Once, I tried to watch that and I just got confused and I turned it off. So
it was pretty crazy.
Do I need to persist? I think I need to persist with it.
It was good. I wouldn't say it was awesome, but it was fun. It was stupid, but it was also pretty it hit pretty hard in certain spots as well. So it had a lot of emotional stuff, which sort of kicks in towards the middle middle and end of the show. It's you got to sort of put aside the stupidity and the absurdity of it, and just understand that, okay, this is just what happens. Like, these random things are happening, but there's a whole other part of it that's the real main part of the movie versus what's going on through these universes.
Yeah. All right, I'll give it a go. So the last one is a fantasy question. We'll see if you line up with what everyone else is saying. But next year, we've obviously got Victor Wembanyama coming in. He's undoubtedly going to be the first pick in the draft. Two-part question: if you had the opportunity to draft him next season, where would you be comfortable taking him? I know it's early, and I know you hate doing rankings and projections and things early. So, but if we say you had to draft, I don't know, next week or something, and secondly, based on, I mean, we all know what the hype can be like around some of these players. What do you think next season? Is his ADP going to be a lot higher than where you would be comfortable taking him?
Okay, so you're right. I don't like doing any ranking stuff at all because there's going to be 130 players change teams, and there's going to be new coaches. There's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that happens, right? And there's probably going to be 20, 25 top 100 players on new teams, I would guess. So that throws everything off. So that's why I don't do that. But you've caught me on a good day because I've spent all day today going through and changing up and redoing my rookie projection formulas. And I just copied and pasted about 80 different rookies in to see where they would come out based on some of my new formula tweaks and all their stats, right? So that gives me a bit of a baseline as to where I think Victor Wembanyama could sit. And he came out 45th of, like, if we were just to slot him into this season's fantasy ranks based on playing 30 minutes. So if you think he's going to play more than 30 minutes, I'd be pretty excited about what's going to happen. Now, there's obviously individual tweaks that need to happen when you see where he goes, but I'm not going to draft him because he's going to go in round 3. Like, I feel really confident he's going to go round 3, round 2, and I'm not going to take him there. But I don't think I'd have a problem, honestly, taking him in round 5 or the back end of round 4. It could blow up in your face, but I don't think I have a problem with taking him after pick 50, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And that pretty much lines up with some people are a little more bullish on him. I think I'd probably be around 40, 45. But I mean, I can see him going in. Do you reckon people will take him in the first round? Because I do.
No. But you'll see him go at 15 because you get to that stage of the draft and it gets weird. It's the Kawhi, Anthony Davis, LeBron. Is Jimmy Butler there? What happens to Trae Young? Does he bounce back? Is Jaren Jackson in the mix? Do you trust Porzingis? What about Larry Markkinen? Like, there's a whole bunch of where's Towns fit? Like, it's all question marks. Yeah. After the first 7, 8, whatever it is, it's all question marks. So I don't think anyone's going to go. Like, if we look at the top 12 here, it's all around that 12 mark: Sabonis, Irving, Harden, Halliburton, Doncic, Tatum, Mitchell. Probably not taking him over any of those guys, and that takes you through about 14, 15. But after that, that's when you get in Jaren Jackson, Paul George, Larry Markkinen, Trae Young, Towns, LaMelo, Booker, those sort of guys. Like, I could see someone doing it. I don't think they should, but I can see it happening. I think he'll almost undoubtedly go 25 to 35 in a vast majority of spots.
Yeah. And in terms of draft landing spot, do you have a preference? Like, where do you think he might, in terms of, I guess, maybe a two-part question again, fantasy ceiling and real life ceiling for this next season? Is there a different answer based on where he lands?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a guy that is good enough that it doesn't matter where he goes, that everything revolves around him, no matter where it is. You go to Charlotte, LaMelo Ball is great, but it's about Victor now, right? It's LaMelo Ball will help him, but it's about Victor. And he goes to San Antonio. I'm sorry, like Jeremy Sohan, you're not starting over Victor Wembanyama. At power forward, like, it's just not going to happen. You go to Detroit, James Wiseman, Marvin Bagley, like, goodbye. Like, what are you doing? You're not here. Isaiah Stewart, go play in China. Like, it's not happening. It doesn't matter where he goes. He's this level of now. It's if you say like Brandon Miller or Amin Thompson or any of those guys, where do they go? Then I go, well, it's going to depend, right? How I value them is going to depend where he goes. With Victor, it doesn't. I don't care. Like, wherever he goes, it's the same. He is that good that whatever team he goes to, it gets. There's not one person. There's not one team in the league where he could go and I go, oh, maybe you stuck behind those guys. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, okay, the argument you can make, you go to the Pelicans and there's Zion and Ingram, right? Because I don't think Victor's going to play at the 5, but he'll play at the 5 on the Pelicans, or Zion will be at the 5 or whatever. Like, he's not better than those two as forwards yet, but he will be. Maybe not Zion, but he will be, right? So there's no team where it's going to be like, it's a little bit stacked. I don't know where he fits. He'll be fine.
And in terms of, yeah, I agree. I think like he's just going to come in and start. Would there be based on where he lands, would there be a difference in how much he plays in terms of a team's going to take it easy? Like, are the Spurs maybe going to only play him 30 minutes where Detroit might play him 33 or something like that? I mean, I know that's a bit nitpicky, but
it's really hard to know. Look, the Pistons kept Jaden Ivey at 30 minutes all season, this season as well. Yeah, I think when I go in and project it, I don't know. I'm probably only going to end up projecting him at 28, 29 minutes anyway, just to ease him in. I think he'll be impactful in that time. He will have some foul trouble issues for sure, as so many rookie big men do. He's the only rookie big man who's ever really come in without that problem is Evan Mobley, and it's just not the norm. Like that, Mobley had an insanely low college foul rate as well, so we knew that would sort of come across. But otherwise, like, you get 28, 29 minutes, you'll play 31, 32 down the stretch. It doesn't really worry me. And I don't even know, like, who's coaching Detroit? I don't know. Like, what's their idea about rookies going to be? Who knows? Popovich played Sohan 30 minutes a night this season, and he's nowhere near as good as Victor Wembanyama. So I don't think that there's a notorious, like, the Spurs didn't really ever start rookies, but they did this season. And if they get Victor, they will do that again. Like, there is no question about that. And if he's good enough, he'll play 32 minutes, 33 minutes, maybe straight away.
Yep. And Houston, I guess, are the other one there. But they're looking for another coach, it looks like. I think I woke up to some tweets this morning that they're interviewing a few people for the head coaching role. So
yeah, I'll wait and see until they actually hire someone. They might chuck 8 or 9 different guys in there in the interview process. I don't know who it's going to be, and I don't really care until it's actually decided. But you're right, that is an interesting one. What would they do with Jabari? What would they do with Şengün in that situation? Look, maybe they would bring him off the bench for the first 5 games. I don't think they would, but I also don't think they would bench Jabari Smith in that situation. Maybe they would. Who knows? But yeah, that is an interesting one. Where would he fit? Or they just say later, Şengün will be trade Smith. I no idea what they do there. But again, I don't think we have any worries about what Wembanyama's going to do in terms of, is he going to be buried?
Yeah. No. Look, I think it's going to be. It'll just be exciting to see where he lands and watch him next season. So, look, that'll probably do it. We're almost at our time limit. So you, unlike a few of the guys I've spoken with, I know you have got some stuff coming up, even though the regular season is done basically. And you've got some dynasty stuff coming up. What else have you got sort of planned for the next few months?
Oh, Kingy, there's a lot, mate. We are doing team review shows where we go through every player and just talk about what they did, why it happened, what it means for the future, where the team is headed, what they're looking for, all that sort of stuff. So we do that for 30 teams. We're doing some redraft stuff from redrafting past drafts, especially last year's draft, bit of dynasty stuff. I did a show reviewing my sleeper picks from the start of the season. I'll do one for busts as well, do a playoff prediction show. Then we get into NBA draft stuff where we just talk with 10 to 15 different draft analysts across the world. And I just say, tell me about this guy. And then we just discuss prospects, and we'll probably knock through 60, 65 draft prospects to lead you into the NBA draft. And then we run the live draft show 11 weeks from now, or 10 weeks from now, actually.
10 weeks, is that all? Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think, I don't know if you, I mean, we'll wrap up now, but I feel like Dynasty is starting to get a really good foothold in the fantasy. Like, I know it's always been there, but I feel like the interest in it is increasing. Do you think the same thing?
Yes, I think the reason we think that is because Dynasty people, obviously, to be involved in that are more, I don't know, the right, intense. No, it's not even intense. Isn't even the right word. They're more invested, so they are talking and seeking out and consuming content and interacting with content because they're playing a league that might go for 5 years or 10 years, and it's 365 days a year. They're not someone who's like, I'm drafting with my mates. We watch shows for 20 weeks and then the season's done, and I disconnect. That's so. Yeah. I think that the appearance of the amount of people playing Dynasty is probably higher than the actual amount. But you're right. There's a lot more people who are doing specific dynasty stuff as well now, which didn't exist. There's literally nobody who did it 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Now I can think of like 4 or 5 guys off the top of my head who are just doing sort of stand. I'm going to get most of these guys on over the next couple of weeks, but they do just dynasty. We've got Matt coming on my show tomorrow, which could be 3 weeks ago, depending on when you release this. There's a whole bunch of guys that are doing that stuff that we're going to chat to.
No, Matt is obviously very invested in that space. So, look, that will do it. Thanks for coming on today, taking some time out. Remember, you can check out all of our content over at fbibasketball.com. Follow us on Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. That would be great. Until next time, catch up.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.